Hi there. In this second video, demonstrating my final project, I will go over some of the technical aspects that went into creating everything you see here. To begin with, I'd like to talk about the sky. So, initially, I did use the Unreal Engine default sky, but it came with certain limitations I wasn't quite happy with, and while it was quite advanced, every time I kept trying to create a night scene that I was happy with, other aspects of the template sky would kick in, causing everything to be way too bright and the colours would be quite wrong. Even if I was to set the horizon and zenith colours myself, there was something in the sky that was just causing the top area to be blown out. So then I went on to install a plugin called Good Sky, and this was a real-time, time of day sky simulation plugin, where basically you would just drag and drop it into your level, set certain parameters such as which time of day it is, excuse me, and then you would tweak certain values. And the first major tweak that I made was to create this sky material, where it's based on a photograph found on the NASA website, and I can't remember the name of the photo, but in this material demonstration you can see how much it tiles. And this was one of the first problems I came across. But initially, if you zoom in, because it's a very big sky, I did tile image and I got rid of all of the tiling effects. Oh, sorry, just 1 second. I started the simulation. I did get rid of all of the tiling effects, such as the hard edges where the image would repeat. I just used the spot heal brush in Photoshop and the clone stamp tool to go over all of that. It was quite a long and tedious process with this being such a large image, but the results were acceptable. Since this would be placed on a spherical object, you wouldn't really see the tiling much anyway, because parts of it would be obscured by the rest of the world geometry, and it would be slowly panning or rotating. So I didn't think it was too important, but this major part of the texture is something to consider when creating tileable textures next time, is to not have any recognizable patterns in your tiling texture. This would go for everything, such as grass. For example, if you had a grass texture you're trying to tile, you might make sure there's no rock or a particular weed or something in the grass, because you definitely would see that. So yeah, on this material itself, you can see that it's slowly panning around the sphere. So if I come into this front view and I zoom right out, you can sort of see the geometry in wireframe. This is a sphere. It's only a half sphere, just to save on polygons wherever I could, really, just for efficiency reasons. I could have done a full sphere, but originally the top of the top of this sphere was triangulated. So if I view it from you can't really see it. Essentially, all of these lines would meet in the middle, kind of like bicycle spokes, and it would distort the texture quite significantly. This was even on the Good Sky plugin. If I go back, I actually had to remodel that for the Good Sky plugin. But this is a reason I decided not to use that, because after having a nice and realistic time of day simulation where you would play the game, I set the day length to about 2 minutes, so then the moon would rise, the sun would go down, and then the sun would come up, and then the moon would go down. It was not very good for art direction. It meant that I couldn't place the lights as I wanted them, and during the day certain lights would become more intensified and blow out the scenery, so everything would appear too bright. And then on the night, the scenery was kind of like how I preferred it, but because of some bugs and things, it didn't always work out like that, and sometimes the lights would glitch out. And I don't know if that's a problem on my part or that was just part of the plugin I was using, but I deconstructed this plugin quite a lot to learn how to make skyboxes and just achieve the effect I was trying to go for. So essentially in this material, if I go into the parent material here, because I'm always using instance materials to save on memory, you can see this small chart. And basically all this is doing, if I just get rid of this aspect, is I've fed the texture into this texture sample. So I'm telling it, hey, can you read the sky? And this is what I meant by the top of the sphere doing this. So on the demonstration sphere, it shows the issue clearly. But yeah, I'm telling it to use this texture, but in its UVs section, where UV is the X and Y coordinates of the 2D layout of the 3D model, I've told it to pan across the sky using this panner node, and it'll use game time if I don't specify a time specifically, and then I've just used this constant one vector, which is just a single value parameter, to tell it how fast I want this to pan. So if I actually put this up to 1, this will go really quickly and make a lot of people sick, especially in virtual reality. So I'll put this back to 0.001, and then I've separated the coordinates here, so I have full control over the tiling itself. So here's the texture coordinates, and I've pulled those apart by using this append node, and then 2 constant 1 vectors to reference the U and the V coordinates of the material. So essentially the texture coordinate goes into this multiplier, and then I multiply it by these values to increase or decrease the tiling. So if I go back to this plane, I don't really have it tiling at all because I didn't need to, but just in case I wanted control over that, I do. So I can make it tile twice on the x-axis and then twice again on the y-axis, and so on and so on. But I'll just set these back to default. And then in this part, I'm telling it to fade to black towards the bottom of the material, because as you can see, it starts out kind of bright and then it gets darker. So if I just preview this node, you should be able to see. It's showing on the left hand side. But after you feed it into this -1, it flips, and then this black appears here instead. So maybe I can preview it here. There we go. So and that's so as the texture gets on the sky sphere itself, it just gets darker towards the bottom rather than staying full bright. I just thought it would give a much nicer space effect to try and give more depth. And then just up here, this is actually stolen from another texture inside the game engine itself, which, mind you, is encouraged, but it's called macro details, macro detail variation, where I'm using 3 different, it's the same texture scale 3 different times, to sort of help break up tiling and just kind of put dark splodges everywhere. This is particularly useful for terrain, but I thought it might look nice on the sky itself. And then this is fed into another multiply node, which is then fed into the emissive colour. Because the sky is unlit, I don't want it to be affected by any of my light sources. I've also given the sky a very dim glow, so that the stars appear slightly brighter. So we'll go back. No. Oh no! I've just done all that and it's not recorded. Close.